Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Our baby is a teenager. Episode number 13.
They grow up so fast.
They do.
They do. Every week.
It's like Saurus, you know what I mean? Like for a show. How was y'all week?
It was all right. Lots of shenanigans in the city of Oakland, per usual. For those who are really curious and live in Oakland and wondering what's going on with public safety, tune in on Tuesday. City Council shenanigans afoot.
You know, I'm on our cannabis commission.
I know, and I was at that meeting.
And when I made that cop mad, anyway, shout out to Chase, not being a cop anymore. Anyway, like, let's put our two worlds together. Sandra's face is killing me.
She's like, what's going on?
Very expressive.
This week was awful. This week was terrible.
It was a
you mean GH land? It was terrible.
No, GH was actually much better than the real world. Yeah. Yeah, I work in reproductive health rights and justice. So this was kind of the nightmare scenario that most of us got into this line of work because we were afraid of this. So if you are interested in being of support, I suggest getting involved with your local abortion fund. And you can find that information at National Network of Abortion Funds, nnaf.org. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
I just love us. You know, when we started, we were like, this is not going to be a political podcast. We're just going to, do our soap opera thing. And they were like, FTP, get an abortion,
Wait a minute.
London ban without apology, donate to a local abortion. Like, I love that for us.
Can I tell you that one of my colleagues in the California Progressive Party caught wind of this podcast and shared it with the officers and was like, how come we're not featuring this in our newsletter? I was like, so.
When Chris Cuomo got suspended, I was like, I'm willing to step in only and like take over his space on CNN only if I can talk about General Hospital every day for 10 minutes. And somebody like tagged in the nurse who plays Epiphany and she was like, I'm into this. I was like, just us on CNN talking shit about General Hospital, Ingo slander every single day.
Yes. I
would love it.
Love it.
The only other bad thing that happened to me this week is TSA went through my hair very, like it was, I could see it, I could feel it. I had it up in like a little ponytail and I was like, they're about to go through my hair. And they did. It was unfortunate. But, things could be worse. Hard to see how they can be worse, but they could be worse.
Okay.
Anyway, y'all ready to get into the week?
Yes.
Yes. Let's go into GH land.
Let's get into GH land. Let me also say, I was watching a lot of the videos for the deep dives this week. Like, it's a very long storyline. So at the end of the recap, I was just like bullet pointing. So it's not like it usually is. Apologies for that, but we'll get there. All right. We start the week still on Thanksgiving with Drew Lavery showing up to see Scout and Sam. Sam is absolutely and obviously shocked to see Drew, and he thanks her for coming to find him. Scout comes downstairs with Dante, and when Drew approaches her, she clings to Dante. She warms up when Drew gives her a unicorn figurine and goes upstairs to show Danny and Rocco. Drew tells Sam and Dante that Jason died saving him, to which Sam is distressed that Scout's dad came back and Danny lost his. Apparently, when Drew stopped off for that unicorn figurine, he also stopped off at T-Mobile because he has a cell phone now, and he gave Sam his new number and told her to call him if she needed him. Sam and Dante share a heart-to-heart, and when he says that he will leave and pick Rocco up the next day, Sam asks him to stay for a little love in the afternoon. Finally. Across town at the Q Mansion, Chase shows up with a dessert, but to his surprise, he's not welcomed with open arms as Bailey's new dad. Valentine appears and let the Qs know that He is the reason Thanksgiving dinner is ruined this year. He had some turkey and the dog had the rest. He also announces that he has retaken his ELQ stock. Shout out to Tonya for calling that, and throws some insults BLQ's way. Let me repeat for you what he said to BLQ. I thought I respected you. Turns out I found you moderately attractive, and now I don't have to stick around and watch you lose your looks. Without your singing voice, you're just the runt of the Quartermain litter with less class than the family dog. Valentine fucking Cassadine, y'all. This leads to Chase punching him, which will have major ramifications later on. After Valentine leaves, Drew shows up with so everyone's surprised with their favorite pizza because he just knew they needed it. And just like Sam, the Qs are surprised to see Drew, and he fills them in on the last 2 years. He also has to tell them that Jason is dead. When Drew blames himself, Monica will not allow it. She talks about the Jarley wedding and how Jason socialized and seemed happy. Now, I'm sticking a pin in Monica naming that they said it was for business, but it looked real. When BLQ and Chase go look in on Bailey and Drew and Monica go look for the dog who ruined Thanksgiving, Ned tells Olivia that with Drew home, Valentine's hold on ELQ is not what he thinks it is. As the Cassadines celebrate at Alexis's, which is, she's hosting Sean, Spencer, and Esme. Glaringly absent are Molly and Christina. But anyway, Alexis tells Sean that she doesn't trust Esme, which girl, me neither, and gets another back from the dead shock as Victor Cassadine Sheffield shows up at her door. Spencer is ecstatic to see his uncle. As you remember, Spencer used his name when he was lying to our girl Trina. He is not so ecstatic when Ava and Nicholas show up. After some very hilarious family squabbling, revisiting of history, which I thought was really important, and threats to leave the house, Victor steps in as the patriarch and tells them that their family is stronger together because they will be facing some challenges. As Sonny is cooking dinner, he receives a visit from Anna, who tells him that Drew is alive and fills him in on the details of Jason's death. At the same time, at General Hospital, Carly runs into Britt, and Britt has the unfortunate responsibility of telling Carly about Jason. Carly reacts in the way that you think she would by yelling and blaming Britt. When Carly gets back home, she cries outside while Sonny watches. When she does get in the house, Joss arrives, and Joss can feel that vibe. When they tell her about Jason, she is clearly devastated. Carly heads to Jason and Robin's footbridge, which is confusing, and is joined by Britt, which is even more confusing, but they come to some sort of peace with each other and talk about missing Jason. At the Corinthos home, we see Drew visit Carly and Sonny as if they are still friends before he was presumed dead. Clarification point, they were not friends, but we'll get there. In other Were Y'all Friends connections, we see Maxie with Drew at the Quartermains. Despite Drew telling Carson that Peter programmed him to kidnap Maxie, Drew did not tell Maxie this. They do have an awkward exchange about Dante and Sam, and Maxie almost blows her cover on Louise. When Drew is not around, Maxie tells BLQ and Chase that they are basically useless since Chase got suspended for punching Valentine, and Valentine's security is no longer there. Maxie suggests they tell Valentine the truth, but BLQ is firmly against it. Back at the hospital, we see Sasha and Brando. They have named their baby Liam Mike and are awaiting more news on his condition. They are supported by Nina, who distracts Amy so Sasha can see Liam, and Carson, who show up. And I share some scenes that I found to be very sweet. Also at the hospital, Peter sees Nina and realizes that Carly didn't know about her Nixon Falls love affair with Sonny. He threatens Nina about it, and Carly shows up behind them. Other points of the week, we witnessed the heartbreaking goodbye between Valentine and Bailey, with Anna there to support him. In further disrespect to Elizabeth, we see that she did not get to react to Jason's death, even though she was right there in the hospital with Carly. Like, she literally just had a conversation with Carly about turkey. Carly turned around and found out about Jason, and Elizabeth wasn't told. Peter basically threatens Austin to stay away from Maxie, and Austin takes a very strange vial of Peter's blood. I have my eye on that.
Mhm.
TJ meets slow talking cat daddy / Curtis's daddy and learns that this is his grandfather. Curtis is upset about it. So upset, in fact, that he might miss Thanksgiving dinner. But Portia says, not my man, and moves it to the Savoy, where we have no sighting of Trina or Molly. Alexis and Sam are going into a PI business together. Sam talks about a reality show. Shout out to when Sam was already a reality star, when she had her show, Everyday Heroes. That's for old school JSam fans. Liesl and Scott give us some hospital love in the afternoon, and Austin walks in on them. That's our week. What do y'all think? Tell me.
The week was okay. I think Friday should have been a Tuesday episode, though. It felt like a Tuesday episode, and maybe that was because of holiday, timing or whatever, but Friday was not a Friday. It was a Tuesday.
I love that you ended the recap on Scotty and Liesl live in the afternoon. Obviously, that was the most of note thing to end on. I thought this week was much, 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 much better than last. Last was like, I think we were referring to it as rock bottom. So if GH is still 2 shows, it was more the good GH than the bad hospital show this week. And so I don't know, this is actually one of the weeks where I agree with Tonya. Like, I think Friday was weird. I wasn't that excited about it, but overall, I feel like I saw things that gave me hope that the show really is recalibrating for a much better 2022 now that the Vax drama is behind us. And even though I was actually expecting the show to be really heavy and melodramatic, because of Jason's death. And of course there was that element, but it also felt like lighter and less weighed down by trash. I think I felt more full of possibility. So I actually felt very optimistic coming out of the week.
Yeah, I did too. I think that the fact that it was still Thanksgiving on like Monday and maybe Tuesday too was like a little odd. And so I'm hoping that some of that like Friday feeling that we had that it was like a Tuesday will pass, because there's like that holiday kind of bubble is not there. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, it was actually still Thanksgiving until Wednesday, because that was when the Cassadine Thanksgiving was. So it was a long ass Thanksgiving.
The superior Thanksgiving. My God, so good.
So Tonya, we're dying to know. Favorite performance of the week.
I would just cap it off to say that basically Cassadine Thanksgiving was awesome. And so for me, I'm going to have to give best performances to an ensemble. And I will name all the actors. I'm really trying to get better at naming the actors when we talk, and I'm not really good with remembering names at all, so I was looking for the names of the actors, so I'm gonna say them all. Okay, Nancy Lee Grahn, Sean Blakemore, Nicholas Chavez, Avery Pohl, Charles Shanahan, James Patrick Stewart, Marcus Coloma, and Maura Rest, all of them who went to the Cassadine Thanksgiving. That was awesome. It was amazing. It was hilarious. I actually tweeted that Cassadine Thanksgiving was better than Quartermain Thanksgiving, definitely this year. And I would have loved to see more of it. I think they kind of cut it off after Victor was like, we need to stick together as a family, but I wanted to see more. I mean, the facial expressions that James did throughout the whole encounter was hilarious. The fact that Spencer came at him, was like, you're this and this, and you almost killed me. And then Valentine was like, yeah, that's the story that your dad told you, and all kinds of stuff. It was hilarious. The one-liners, Alexis saying, what fresh hell is this? And then all of a sudden comes Nicholas and Ava. It was hilarious. It was the best episode, and I want to see more. I want to see more interaction. of the Cassadine family. And I'm hoping, like you guys are saying, that this is something that we can look forward to. It was just cool. I loved it. And so I have to give props out to all of those actors. They did an awesome job. And we've noted that the GH is best when we have as many of our cast interacting with each other as possible. And so that's something that I want to see more of. I want to see the Cassadines interacting more with each other. I want them to kind of grapple with the idea that Valentine is a Cassadine now, and that they have to actually take him seriously, because Spencer kept saying over and over in the beginning, now we know that Valentine isn't a Cassadine, and then all of a sudden it comes out that he actually is. What does that mean for the Cassadines? Does Valentine go in and be like, look, I'm about to move home, Nicholas and Ava? What do you think about that? That would be hilarious. Victor and Valentine moving into the house.
There's certainly enough space.
Right. They have enough space. Let's do it. I want to see it. And then also it was a shame that none of the children of Alexis was there, like Sam or Molly and Christina. They are also cast, because I was actually looking at the Cassadine tree, and all of the Sam's prodigy are all Cassadines. And so I would love to see a real huge family dinner with all of the adults, at least, including Sam and Molly and Christina. That would be hilarious. So yeah, shout out to Cassadine Ensemble.
Definitely. I mean, I would take out Marcus, but everybody else, yes.
Marcus had a manageable amount of lines in that scene. I mean, everyone was really great. I don't feel like nobody dropped the ball, certainly, if that's like a bar. And also, like, folks were really also just really, really excellent. So many excellent performers in one scene. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was just cheering, laughing, constantly pausing so I could cackle as loud as I needed to.
Yeah.
Hear the next line. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Ava bringing back her brother, reminding us that it was a year since his passing. I'm hoping the actor is able to come back. Definitely miss him. So Julian needs to come back. That would be an interesting foil. I guess maybe they're trying to put Alexis and Sean together. Julian ain't really dead, I guess. I don't know. Did they find his body? If not, then bring him back.
From his body?
Julian's? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So I mean, like we said, we forgive a lot of things if it serves the character and the storyline well. So bring him back. They brought back Sunny, bring back Julian. Let's do it.
I was like struck, and I was thinking about something that you said last week, which was like, and it was like really about our Beyond Salem conversation, when it was like, as long as we're in on the joke, like we are willing to accept things.
Yeah.
And so I thought like your point about Spencer and Valentine having that conversation, because I had been like, yo, Valentine tried to kill Spencer as a kid. So like to have him say that and to be like, we know. Or like with Victor,
like we don't care.
Like, when Victor was like, I know that you don't like Helene, that you tried to kill your mom, but also just being able to say, we acknowledge that shit, and like it's a soap, so we're moving on. I think it's just like the point is all the soap fans want. Mm-hmm. I think, because we're gonna forgive and we're gonna allow things to happen. We just don't want to be taken advantage of. We don't want lazy writing.
Right.
I will say with Julian, I think that they thought that going into his storyline with his sister, Olivia Jerome, and all of that business, which was like, they completely like annihilated his redemption arc with that. And that was when I stopped fucking with Julian, because I liked Julian and Alexis until then. Because what he did to Alexis was so like, honestly, like triggering, traumatizing, awful. And I think they thought that they did try to do a retcon with that, and it was like, oh, it was actually Olivia made him do that, and it was like the only way to save Alexis's life. But I felt like people just like, at least, and I am one of the people that was like, actually, I can't go along with this retcon. I hate Julian forever. And I do like William DeBray. Like, I think he's a great actor. He's got great he's very charismatic. I think the way that they treated his character was awful, and I could maybe see him redeemed with someone else. I just do not want him coming back to be with Alexis. No more Julie and Alexis. That's unfortunately the writers killed that. I'm sorry to people who like that couple, but I can no longer.
I mean, they could easily bring back William DeBray as somebody altogether. I mean, hey,
another
person. It's
well, also Kim has that baby that we don't know if it's Franco's or his, so that's also something that's interesting.
It's true.
So we could find out that he's like living off screen, like with that baby. Like, you know.
Yeah, wasn't that his intention? I think to maybe meet up with him. I don't know.
He showed up at her place to try and hide, and that's when he saw the baby.
But she wasn't there.
Right. So there's still storylines right when it comes to him.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess I can talk about my favorite moment because it was recasting. It was Thanksgiving. Surprise! I loved it. I've been saying for forever, like, this is the legacy family to reinvest in and to build back up. Of course, I'm not the only person saying that. Everyone who has taste is saying it. We love that Cassadine mess. I loved that Alexis finally, put the pieces together to not trust Esme. I love that Sean also knew, like, Alexis was doing her polite white lady thing of, oh, thank you, Esme, for helping to clean up. And Sean was just like, you don't like that bitch. And just like, shout out to Sean. There is that like one person that's really needed at Thanksgiving that's not part of the family to be like, what in the actual hell is going on with these people? Like, you didn't go to any white people Thanksgiving. You went to the Cassadine Thanksgiving. I mean, now these white people are crazy. I loved like highlighting Valentina and Alexis's friendship. It felt like for a little while the writers were playing with putting them together, and I'm so glad that we're going back to this family dynamic and that it actually took them not being related for them to be family, and then now it's being solidified. And I loved, you named the what fresh hell is this, Tonya, and that was a fave, because obviously, fresh hell, and then open your door and there's Nicholas. I mean, what's more appropriate than that? I also really love the next doorbell ring, and Alexa said, are you kidding me? Who could that be? Satan? And then she opens the door to Victor saying, hello, Natasha. I screamed. I loved it so much. I also love when characters call Alexis Natasha, because it's that nod to her Cassadine-ness that she's always kind of trying to push to the side. And so I loved just over and over again, Natasha. Oh, Valentine, I didn't know you were close with Natasha. And then Alexis shooting back, well, I didn't know you and Valentine were close. Oh, we're not. He's just my father. Dun, dun, dun. All the action faces, like Spencer being like, and then Sean being like, the fuck is happening here again? It was just, it was so good. And I appreciated that it was also so much about Alexis's point of view, which is really rare for a Cassadine storyline, unless we're talking specifically about like storylines about her mother's death. So I liked that because in so many ways, all the rest of us, like the days, the pre-Helena Cassadine days were kind of before our time. And so we came up with Helena being the head of the family. So to me, even though the Cassadines are like a patriarchal family, right? Like they're literally patrilineal, like they pass their money and inheritance, their titles like through the men. To me, they're very much like a matriarchal family. And so my one complaint about the Cassadines is like there just aren't enough Cassadine women being featured. And so I appreciated Alexis being at the center.
That's why I'm like, why isn't Sam there? Why isn't Molly and Christina there?
Well, Sam was busy.
Sam was busy, which we'll also talk about later. I agree. Like, I really thought I thought Christina and Molly would be there because we know Christina's filming again. So I just assumed. And that was disappointing. I hope
Christina's coming home for Christmas. So.
There you go. I am hoping that they'll layer them in with Alexis being more central to the Cassadine storyline and more a part of like the glue holding them together, and that tension between her and Victor. I'm hoping for more of that. But yeah, it was strange. I really just want to see Christina like go full Cassadine.
Yes.
Like, we need it. And we know that she can go there. She is that crazy. So we always talk about how much she's like Sunny, but
that would actually be amazing because apparently they're not trying to have her be all Sunny. So fine, do something to show that spark of her personality, whether it's from the Sunny side or the Cassadine side. Either way, bring her back.
She's just bound to be crazy,
right?
You know.
Yeah, I mean, Christina is a Cassadine Corinthos. Like, give my girl some screen time. Bring my girl back. I want Christina. Give me my Chrissy immediately. I'm hoping that when she comes back, it actually, I mean, as we've said, we've cleared out some trash. And so I know my girl's Chrissy is vaxxed and ready to work. And so I'm hoping that we actually get a lot of her. Sandra, I knew the Cassadines were going to be your favorite. So like, while they're one of my favorites, I could actually listen to you forever recapping and reacting to the Cassadines. Like, I knew that was going to be just as entertaining as seeing it. So just to like give you my favorite moment of the week, it was Sam throwing that barware. Like, it was so wild. I loved it. She was like, I got turkey burgers. Ah, like, I fucking loved it. Like, girl, what are you doing? In general, for me, for a soap, I love a good soap turn. I think the Cassadines have that in spades. Like, something happens and Spencer's like that's, I love a soap turn. Like, I love a soap like overreaction. I love a barware throw. I love a table flip. And so to have Sam throw that glass when I wasn't expecting it, I said, you know what, Samantha? I see you, girl. Samantha is, I mean, I've always been a huge Sam fan. A lot of that has like translated to me being like a J Sam fan, but I'm really clear that I'm a Sam fan first, and her throwing that glass just really did it for me. I don't know. What about you, Tonya? What was your favorite?
Outside of Cassadine family ensemble, I want to note two things that I liked. So one thing that GH did a lot of this week was some chemistry testing, I guess. And so the particular note that I actually enjoyed was between Britta and Austin. I thought their interaction was really neat, and just to see as a possibility of them two being closer in some sort of way was really interesting to me. So I do want to see, it's kind of getting into what we want to see more of, but I enjoyed that interaction. And then I want to shout out to our girl Carly, who, even though she was grieving, let's shout out to our call for her having more friends. She reached out to a lot of women this week. So she sought out Monica at the hospital, even though it didn't catch her, but she sought her out. She had a lot of interaction with Britt. The possibility of them being friends is interesting, but she shared Jason with her, which was crazy because we all thought it's going to be all about Carly this week because of Jason. And it was almost she was sharing her grief with somebody. And also, she wasn't as focused on Nina. She possibly could have been. She did have her Nina moment, which I guess is something that GH is trying to do every week, have her and Nina run into each other for some reason. But it was kind of brief, but it was still, so Carly being kind of a little bit different was nice for me to see. So I guess those are the good things outside of Cassadine family, if we're looking for stuff. Yeah. So, what do you want to see? So I kind of went a little bit into that, but Tracey, like, what do you want to see more of?
I think what I really appreciated is that there was like a plethora of things to choose from this week. And I feel like for the last couple of weeks, I've been like, oh, but I really want to see more Sasha and Brando. I think they have been hiding these two from us. And they, as actors, Johnny Wachter and Sophia Masson, like they squeeze the most out of every moment they have on screen. I really love them. And I just also want to say they're like a little bit too good for this show, because I don't want to see them on a soap. I want to see them like on a prime time, like This Is Us family drama, because I don't want them to break up. But like really, like I found myself just like enthralled by them, like just, and they're given so little, they were on for like 2 days maybe. But just like every piece of it, like they are so sweet together. The actors clearly have a very good rapport. I wonder how much like Sophia is like drawing from being a new mom and like thinking like, if this was my child, what would be happening? Because I like feel it from her, you know what I mean? Like I feel the emotion from her. I feel how generous Johnny Wachter is like a scene partner for her, and like giving her like this spaciousness to feel her feelings. I am just so impressed by them. I think they're so spot on, so good. They're like exactly like that kind of demographic age group that the show needs to be highlighting more. And so in addition to like seeing them become new parents, I would love to see them be something besides that. And I really hope they get featured a little bit more, because they have just been knocking it out of the park. And I think that they can handle even more. And so while I love like the drama they've been given and the emotional beats that they've been able to play, we've also seen them over time during the pregnancy, especially, be kind of funny and cute and flirty. And so I'm hoping that on the other side of this like dramatic storyline, they're also given some space to do that and not kind of like put on ice again. So that's for me. Tonya, what do you want to see more of?
I want to see more of, again, Austin and Britt interacting. I just think they have some great chemistry, and I'm wondering where they're going to go from there. What else do I want to see more of? Obviously, Sprina, they were missing, and want her back.
It's a drought.
It's a drought, and maybe it's an understandable drought, but I need her back on that. Actually kind of have a little bit more of what I want to see less of. So Sandra, you go ahead and share what do you want to see more of.
I actually think it's, now that you mentioned the Austin and Britt piece, I was intrigued too. I think I'm interested in both of them having like kind of that edgy quality to them. I also like Roger Howarth in that kind of mischievous, but he's not like Todd evil, because like Todd was always fun to watch, but like it's a character that does not hold up in really any decade, but certainly not in 2020. And I could never totally get into him and Elizabeth for a lot of different reasons. But one is that like I kind of like seeing him opposite a bad girl. So I think that him and like I think Kelly and Roger could be a really interesting pair. So I'd be interested in more chemistry testing from them. And I think we'll see more of that. And I'm much more interested in them than him and Maxie. I like them as friends, but I don't feel that spark otherwise. I also agree about Brasha. And I think it's really notable that, you know, I think most of the feedback I've heard about Brasha from the beginning has been like, they're cute, but what are they gonna do? Like, we want to be invested, but we don't ever see them. And so we are starting to see more of them now. And I am interested to see like what happens with this baby storyline. And I'm actually quite nervous about it. Cause I just, my commentary every time I'm watching a scene with them is like, they're really going to kill this baby, huh? They're really killing this baby, huh? And like, I'm very invested. And so I think that's notable that we went from kind of being like, yeah, they're cute, but whatever, to being like, what's going to happen with them? They're baby.
Right.
I will say I went from I like Sante ? Last week to I want to see more of Sante. I like Sante ! No question mark ! Of course, loved the turkey burger pizza line. I mean, Kelly loved it. I also loved like that little scene where she's trying to clean it up and Dante's just like, just let me take care of you, Sam. I know you're not used to it because you haven't been with someone who took care of you since Drew. But you know, I'm here now to look at you with these like puppy dog eyes, like you are the woman who hung the fucking moon. Like, Dante giving her the eyes really is actually so much of what is selling Sante to me. Because I mean, Kelly Monaco has chemistry with everyone.
Everybody.
She has chemistry with herself. She has chemistry with the air. But their scenes really reminded me of how fucking great Kelly Monaco can be with good writing and a great scene partner. And I think those pieces are all in play. It was so great to see her also basically every day this week. 4 days. Like we saw her several days in a row. It had been so long. Because I think another thing about this last, and I hope this also comes true for Liz too, is that Liz has definitely been major in the back burner, like way more than Kelly has in a lot of ways, but Kelly has been on the back burner too.
I was thinking that.
Yeah. And so for these two victims of Jason's dick war, what I wish for Jason's death is big storylines for both of them. Of course, we'll talk more about that in a bit, but that's what I want to see. I want to see more Sante. I also want to see more Vanna. And what I'll say about that is I loved I love Petty Valentine, love. And I also love that Anna let him be a little petty, but also was like, we're gonna put some boundaries around this pettiness, and you're actually gonna need to feel your feelings. Mm-hmm. But also, I'm gonna read in my very English way, Chase and BLQ, and remind them that no matter what mean words Valentine said to them, they done fucked up.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that you've spoken, I have some more that I want to see.
Go for it.
Yes.
I actually do. I want to see Rebecca Herbst and more on the scene. And I also want to see her Elizabeth interacting more with Sam. And maybe, I guess I'm going to put this out in the ether, maybe it's Sam that goes to Elizabeth and talks to her about Jason, because I think they have a connection in common in that one, they both have something to mourn along with, because of their past relationships and their past rivalry. And I want that to strengthen their friendship. The fact that the most contentious point between them is now gone, and how that impacts them both as mothers of his children. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation to have, and I hope they have it. And so far I've been on a streak of predicting some things, so hopefully this works. Can we say more of Dante's shower scenes? Yes. That man is built. I want to see that a lot more of that. I mean, it's great. So thank you for that, Dominic. Keep up the good work, keep up the push-ups and all of that. And I love his hair too. I love it. That's me being very superficial. So yeah, those are the things I want to see more of. Now, kind of what I had a complaint about a little bit, and I do want to see Brasha more, but I kind of felt like a scene of theirs could have been used to bring back Elizabeth. Now, I love the fact that she wanted to go and see her baby, but that little scheme, all of that could have been gone to Elizabeth, I think. Because I just felt like it wasn't necessary that they had to sneak out and go to visit, the baby and all of that. I felt like that scene could have been used to have Elizabeth on. So that was my one little complaint about Brasha. I feel like, or they could have used it to have a more poignant scene. The comedy was fun, I guess, lighthearted and needed, but I just didn't feel like it was necessary, and they could have used that time for something better, or something that we would have wanted to see.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, because I was
going
to
to say
on a whole other subject.
I think I don't know. Well, a couple things. One, I actually don't need Elizabeth and Sam to be friends. No, I would like for them to like tell their kids together. I think that would have been like very poignant, because like that connection, and we'll talk about it in the deep dive, but like between like Danny and Jake and all of that like feels really important. And to like sit down and talk to them about their kids feels important. I think that they are fine as like people who know each other, but not people who are best friends. And then I think that Elizabeth deserves something meatier than to like be stuck in somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm like really, I love when I talk to people about like General Hospital specifically, and people are like, "Oh shit, Sunny's still there? Oh, like Elizabeth, like." Elizabeth is not a character I like at all. And I still think that we should see her more as a respect to the work and the time that she has put in to the show. And so even when we talk about Brasha's baby, or like that scene, I actually think that it should have been a scene between Britt, Carly, and Elizabeth to talk about Jason's death. Elizabeth was right there. She was like, she had just spoken to Carly about like what Metro Court Turkey, turned around, and then like Carly ran into Britt. They could have, for me, cut out the scenes of Elizabeth and Finn. I actually don't need Finn's child propping up a couple I don't like. Because like Violet was there and was like, we like Elizabeth, we like, whatever. Like we didn't need that. I would have rather have seen Elizabeth in that scene with those other two women and like learning about Jason and having a reaction on screen than to like, I mean, whatever. But I think that is where I would have preferred to see Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. Let's take from the other Jason scenes and like keep that ratio what it is and not widen it by taking away from others. This is my purely like like calculating mind of just like, it's all about ratio.
Yeah.
And keep the Jason ratio as low as possible. But yeah, I agree. I would much rather see Elizabeth than honestly some of the Britt and Carly stuff. Although I liked it more once I reached the end of the arc. Like when it first started, I was like, I don't need to see Carly bitching at Britt. I really don't. But I understand, like I get where they were going with it. I just feel like they need to use both those characters much more strategically than they're using them.
Mm-hmm.
Because in part, like they are being overly propped as like the people grieving Jason. And I think it's a delicate balance. But I think in the end, we're all agreeing we want to see Elizabeth. And now we're just getting into like who do we take from in order to do that?
And I have to remember, I don't want to see people grieving Jason at all. So
that's true.
There's that. But I just kind of feel like day after day of people talking about Jason and no Elizabeth just really felt disrespectful to me. Sure. And I don't necessarily like Elizabeth as a character either, especially as we get into this deep dive. But at the same time, it's just like, it was so blatantly disrespectful that I had to say something. I felt like I had to say something about it. So yeah, we don't necessarily need another week of going over the fact that Jason's gone. And unfortunately, we're going to get that because Michael has to find out. And obviously, Jason's other kids have to find out. I mean, it's just so much more. Well, Jason's kid has to find out. Either way, there's more people out there who were impacted, which we're probably going to have to be, suffer through them finding out. But Elizabeth should have been prominent in that, and she wasn't. And that was disrespectful.
For sure. And I do want to just say that the part of the reason, it's funny, I didn't realize that none of us really liked Elizabeth. I think that part of it is because Becky Hertz is good at doing what she does. Like, right. She sells the hell out of her storylines. And for me, I like watching soaps where I don't like someone. I like having somebody who I'm like vehemently against. That's important to me.
That's a testament to her skill as an actress.
Yeah, for sure.
My other thing that I wanted to bring up is that I'm particularly triggered by Cat Daddy. Of course, I mean, the novelty of him and having a new storyline was great, but I'm triggered by him because of my own personal history with deadbeat fathers, and how he was behaving was kind of just really triggered me a lot, because how he went from going and confronting or just meeting with TJ, and just like his not answering questions, and being all jovial and smiley in the face of something that can be really traumatic to people. I did not like it, and I don't like how he's approaching this storyline at all. Well, not how he's approaching the storyline. I don't like the character, how the character's behaving. And so I that's kind of what I want to see less of. I want him to be actually more cognizant of the trauma that he caused this family, and not just come in and be like, I just want to get to know you, and this is a great thing, and I'm proud of you, and all this. You don't own any of the success that these people have had because you've had nothing to do with it, and you cause them pain. So don't come in here acting like this is just a great news and that you may have faltered in how you approach them, but this is great and we can have a family and it's off. No. So I need him to be more cognizant about. I want to see less of him thinking that his presence in their life is going to be awesome, because it may not. And it actually sounds like it hasn't been, because they haven't explored the fact that he's apparently very violent. So yeah, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Same.
Absolutely. It's been so weird. Yes. Like, I've just been watching the scenes like, I'm not even a member of your family, and I am personally offended for all of them. And I don't even like all of them. Because right now I'm not really fucking with Curtis. So I'm just like,
it was just like crazy.
Like, don't make me feel bad for Curtis, but then Curtis is also, I'm just like, not like running away every time even the hint of explanation is coming about where Hat Daddy's been. And I'm just like, can someone just spit it out?
Yeah.
You like TJ. TJ was like, okay, I'm getting frustrated. I was like, me too, TJ. Me too. I am also frustrated. Yes. What are we talking about?
I heavily identified with TJ. I'm just like, spit it out, man.
Who are you? Leave me alone. Just say it. I'm just like, dude, just say who you are so we can get on with this mess. And then him smiling all goofily and stuff like that. I'm just like, stop it.
I know. It's like,
where you been? Right? Where you been? Just tell us.
Just say it.
Say it. Right. It's almost as if they don't know yet. And they're
still right.
They haven't decided yet where he's been. I guess I believe that, honestly.
Right.
I do have some theories, but I also actually, that might be my new theory, is that they just don't know yet. Let's see, what's my list of, it's Jason related. Pretending that people who loved Drew as Jason, minus Monica, didn't completely abandon Drew when the real Jason returned. I would like less of that. I continue to be all over the place about Drew. Like I was like, absolutely not even gonna acknowledge him. And then I was like, Drew Lavery, I can get down. Then last week I was like, but Cameron Matheson, not really, but also a little bit, because of what he said about changing the direction of the character, which is actually just the direction the character has always been in. And also like I hated Ryan Lavery, etc. But I will say that like I actually really felt his scenes with Sante and the Qs really, really worked. Especially the scenes with Monica. And the scenes with I felt for him whenever Scout reached for Dante instead of Drew. I really loved Drew and Sante like talking, like I could really see them being co-parents. I just felt the scenes felt emotionally honest in a way that I honestly have never felt about Ryan Lavery. And so I was like, okay, like I feel the connection between Drew and these characters. I'm still mad. I can hold the complexity that I'm still mad about Billy Miller. And also like, this feels good. And then came the Carson scene. First of all, I get why he went to Carly and Sonny, right? Because like he's talking to talking about Jason, blah blah blah. But them pretending like things were just not just cool between them, because I understand things were calmer and more cordial between them before Drew left because of Oscar's death. Right. They were less abandoning. But they really did just leave him out in the cold in so many ways. And for Carly to pretend like they were at the place that they were before Jason came back, it just didn't do me any favors, or it didn't do Carly any favors in my eyes, and not, I think, in very many people's eyes either. So it's like another example of like not using Carly very strategically. Because I think there's a way that they can be in relationship and actually acknowledge the real ruptures between them, even if it's just like, hey, we know things got messy when Jason showed back up, and like we'll always care about you. I can handle that, but the way that they did that was just, it felt so disrespectful. It really took me out of it. And it's just like another one of those pieces that makes it hard for me to buy into Drew.
Especially when the funny thing is that, I mean, it was brief, but Carly blamed Britt for Jason being out there, but in actuality, it seemed like Drew would draw her ire more once she found out that it was Drew who really kind of was a bit of a reason why Jason isn't back. So, and she was already, already pushing or closer to Jason than she was Drew in the first place. So yeah, it was kind of a weird scene. And again, it disrespects history and what fans know of the history. And again, they're not acknowledging it.
And super recent history.
Right.
That's the other piece, like, because it looks like the retcon they're really trying to do is to make it seem like the reason the rupture happened is because Drew was like mad at Jason. Like, because there was like a scene or like a comment that he made, like, oh yeah, like I was so bitter or upset at Jason that I like couldn't see whatever. And so I really hope that's not the direction they're going in the retcon, because it looks like that might be what it is.
Jason was also an asshole during that whole arc. He was an asshole.
When is he not?
I mean, there was a period that Drew was feeling very anti-Jason, especially around the time where he felt threatened by Jason because of Sam. But that
Carly helped precipitate. Like Carly was doing shit to get them together.
Yeah. So but it wasn't like because he hated Jason as a person. It was because he felt threatened by him. But it wasn't so much where he would feel like, I never knew who Jason was because I was just always so angry at him. That wasn't quite how it happened.
And the time period,
yeah.
The what I'm referring to Jason being an asshole is also that time period where it wasn't like it was just like Drew was like, fuck you, man, I'm Jason. Like Jason had no interest in building a relationship with Drew, had no interest in his well-being, had no empathy for him. But empathy, Jason, I don't know how he shows that besides having red watery eyes.
Does his eyes turn red? I think they're just really watery, and then he opens them up really wide.
Woo! A little
right. Yeah, he's not as skilled as Sophia in that. He's definitely not. He's just more pensive, like it's just weird. Sorry, I can't even do it because I just go crazy when I do it.
It's the lander. Sorry. I mean, you know I like it, but this slander. So what I want to see less of, let me just say and be really fucking clear. I hate Chase and BLQ together. I was like on the fence about it before, but I actually hate it. Like, Chase is no longer a cop. That should be my fucking dream come true. Like, I was already kind of thirsting after Chase a little bit. So when he stopped being a cop, it should have been full blown thirst. And here I am, disgusted. Like, their whole dynamic, pretending as if Valentine should not be upset. First of all, Valentine, like, kind of being a little rude to you is Valentine tried to kill Spencer as a child, as Spencer pointed out. Valentine pushed Ava off of Windermere. So him showing up and eating your turkey and doing a little meanness to you after you lied to him for months and had him believing a baby was his is the very least that you can expect. And so Chase had done like a little bit of that gaslighting thing that I actually don't like from Nina, which was like, he was like, how much more do you want from her? Talking about Brooklyn. Bro, he just found out yesterday. What are you talking about? Like,
exactly. Like what? He wasn't even able to say goodbye. He quietly left the Quartermaine mansion. And he just came back just to say goodbye, and you're all up in his face.
Right.
That's another thing I want to see less of is Brooklyn's attitude. That was crazy to me.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And so, like, for me, I see what they're trying to do. It's not good. It's not interesting. And the two of those actors don't have enough chemistry with each other to pull it off. And actually BLQ is making like Chase like more unlikable, which is surprising. It was surprising to me. I was surprised that I had that reaction to them, but I was very put off from them in their reaction to Valentine and like how stupid the storyline is now. And it's actually too late in the baby storyline to be doing something this stupid. Mm-hmm. Like, we're here. So like, it's time to wrap that shit up. Okay. Not for you to be adding additional dumbass layers. Like, nobody wants this. So non-cop Chase being somebody I like less. No, I hate it. Break it up, stop it. And now next week we're gonna have to like see self-righteous Milo. No, none of it. I'm not here for it.
They're like, well, maybe this will make people like Chalin more if Milo's mean to them because everyone hates Milo. No, it's just more bad things sorted together. I agree. Like, they definitely do not have the chemistry to pull off this storyline. They just don't. They don't. Like, the only moments where you feel like a connection between them that could be potentially romantic are like clearly written moments. Mm-hmm. Or like moments where like, oh, well, Chase is going to be like, I could get more hugs from you. That's not sexy, by the way. That's not sexy.
You don't think that's sexy?
That wasn't a sexy moment. It was like a moment where like the writers were reminding you, oh, these two people like might have feelings for each other.
Or like when they grabbed each other's hands or something like
yeah,
that.
it doesn't feel natural. Unlike what you see with our kids, you know, with Sprina, it doesn't need to be scripted for us to know that they're into each other. And so y'all might want to watch some Sprina clips, is what I'm saying.
Some notes.
Because this is not it.
You might want to watch some Sprina clips.
Honestly, the adults, like so many of the older actors, I'm like, why don't you watch these kids? Because they understand the assignment.
Or if it's more palatable, watch Vanna scenes.
True.
I don't want them to hurt themselves. All right.
Yeah, that's too much. We should start off with Sprina and then go with Vanna. Yeah, okay.
That's a little advanced. That's a little
advanced. Because I will say, before we get into anything else, like what I loved about Vanna this week was the friendship. Like that was just so beautiful to me. Like the idea that, I mean, like, yes, we've seen them be fun and we've seen them be sexy and flirty, but it is important to remember that these characters who shouldn't work together do work together because their friendship is so deep that they understand each other. And so when she like touched his face when he had Bailey, I was like actually crying. Or like the scene outside of the Quartermain mansion, like when she hugged him, I was like, oh my God, Vanna hugs. I'm a simp for this. Like, give me more, inject it into my veins. I love it so much. Yeah, I mean, obviously Finola and James Patrick Stewart are just like phenomenal, masterclass, have it all. But that friendship between the two of them just like shines. It was so good.
Yeah, amazing. We can talk about Vanna for hours, but we have a deep dive to go into. And
yes, we do.
Take it away, Tracey. Tell us what happened.
Yeah,
Remind us how scandalous Elizabeth.
Okay, so let me just first, because again, as I said, we'll take that fucking mist from the Milo fans, but we're not trying to have the smoke with Elizabeth fans. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, I just want to like first clear that up. The Elizabeth hive, chill out. We actually all have agreed, actually unprompted. So to be clear, we've agreed. We like Becky Hertz. She understands the assignment every time. And it's part of the reason we don't, I personally don't fuck with Elizabeth, and I'm like a Sam fan. So, you know, here we go getting into it.
And I would also say you, Elizabeth fans.
We respect your right to organize.
Yeah. Again, we don't have the same goals as you, but we respect your tactics and your strategy.
Yes.
You're not trying to have that smoke.
And you are justified. You are justified in wanting to see more of Elizabeth. We see you, we hear you, we agree.
We just try to put on our armor, protect ourselves first. You know what I'm saying?
Gotta frame it up. Gotta
frame it. So this is the most recent of our classic storylines that we've deep dived into. And I wanted to look at it because it was the last kind of presumed death of Jason and introduction of who would become Drew. I also want to say that I stopped watching GH in like, it was like 2011, 2012, because I've always been really creeped out by James Franco. I feel very vindicated in that now, to be honest. Shout out to me for knowing some discernment there. And when he returned kind of like in the middle of like some J-Stam stuff, I lost interest. I just couldn't watch it anymore. Especially around like the rape, but maybe not rape storyline. Like I just couldn't do it. And then I picked GH back up in 2017, actually when I met Sandra. And so I didn't see Jason's presumed death in the harbor. I didn't see the Jake Doe storyline in real time. And I do think that matters. So like watching the storyline play out day to day is really different than like binging it on YouTube. And so look, I would venture to say that people who would like watch the Nixon Fall storyline on YouTube in the future, if they ever did that, would feel really different about it than we did, having to like watch it for 9 months. And so I say all that to say it's easy to overlook the real work that the actors, Becky Hartz, Kelly Monaco, and Billy Miller put in to making this storyline work if you didn't watch it unfold every day. Because like it could have gone a very different way and it didn't because of the talent that they had. So I'll give a little recap, but would love really for more of us to focus on, like, especially because I think y'all might have watched it in real time, what your thoughts were in seeing it, and how you feel about the Jake Doe is Jason to he's actually not Jason progression. So Jason was like presumed dead. He and Sam had just gotten back together and had Danny. At the time of Jason's death, he did not, or presumed death, he did not know Danny was his kid. Actually, they had thought that the child was Franco's. Jason was presumed dead. Sam went through a whole lot to try to get him back. Couldn't find him. And so 2 years went past. And then we see Robin return to like help like escort Jason back on screen. And so the way they did it was because they like a lot of times with like recasts, as y'all know, it'll just be like a voiceover or something like the role of such and such is now played by such and such. They didn't do that. They said, okay, we're gonna have a whole storyline to like bring this character back on screen. He like escaped from somewhere with Robin, got into an accident, messed up his face, and so it was like a whole facial reconstruction. So it was like actually named that he did not look the same. And instantly he was brought to General Hospital and had a connection with Sam, Elizabeth, and Carly. They were all drawn to him. In addition to the fact that Danny was actually really drawn to him as well. So he went by the name Jake Doe because he felt really attached to the name Jake. He was mind controlled by our girl Helena to like blow up a boat and try to kill Sam and just like all of this. This is also when we saw a lot of like Nicholas being really ridiculous. So Nicholas found out that he was Jason and didn't tell anybody because he was trying to get ELQ. This Jake Doe and Elizabeth became really close and started like having some kind of romantic feelings with each other. And then Rick came back and paid Hayden to pretend that she was Jake's wife. And so it kind of broke up him and Elizabeth, but Jake never took to Hayden. But he also was really attached to Sam. And at the time, Sam was in a relationship with Patrick. And watching it back, I actually was surprised by how much I really loved Sam's relationship with Patrick. Like, I was like, oh, wait, I might actually like this more than I like Scrubs. No, I definitely like this more than I like Scrubs. And like, it rivaled how I felt about Jay Sam. They were so mature and they were adult, and like Sam, they were clearly grieving, you know what I mean? Like Sam was grieving Jason, and Robin was like supposedly living in London, but there was like a reason, like I forget what kept her off canvas, or she was like being forced to live there, but they didn't know that. And so anyway, like they were both grieving kind of these past relationships and building these relationships together. And they were just, I mean, it was also very, very good together. Like both of those actors have a lot of chemistry with people, and they had like fire chemistry with each other. And so anyway, when Carly's messy ass like exposes at a nurse's ball that Rick hired Hayden, Nicholas also tells Elizabeth that Jake is Jason. And so Elizabeth looks like she's going to tell everyone and then decides not, because this is her chance to actually have a life with Jason. Jake also obviously like has some of those Jason feels, so we find out he's like a good killer and like starts working with the cops. This is also the death of Duke Lavery. Sonny got shot and like paralyzed during the time. Like there was a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of storyline that like happened. Ava like was presumed dead and then came back as another character, but it was actually her. She just had a really bad wig and a bad accent. It was a really wild time. I watched hours of this on YouTube and was very entertained by like all of the happenings of Port Charles in that time. But I do, and I'll say this, and then I want to pause for y'all. I do just want to like say there was so much. So eventually, like Carly again finds out that Jake is actually Jason, like from some kind of program that Spinelli had put together to like look at, like find their faces or something. And so at the wedding that was supposed to be Jake, Doe, and Elizabeth, Carly like shows up after being in a car accident with like a fucking like smashed up face. It was like, he's actually Jason. And Elizabeth pretends like she didn't know. And I think that it's really interesting to me because the show clearly put in a lot of work to try to make people accept this recast of Jason, to then be like, just kidding, Steve Burton wants to come back, and so now he's Jason. And so just wanted to like pause there because there's so much to that story. Eventually him and Sam get together, obviously, and then they have Scout, and then we find, you know, whatever. But want to hear from y'all as people who watched it live. Like, what did you think about it at the time? What did it do for your opinion about Elizabeth, about Nicholas? Like, there's so much. And so such a meaty storyline. Would love to hear y'all thoughts on it. Sandra, your face.
Well, I mean, for me, it just reminded me about how Elizabeth is willing to sacrifice her morals and her so-called good person reputation in order to get what she wants, to service her obsession with being with Jason, and Nicholas going along with it. And it reminded me of their past affair and how they both kind of just pretended to be better people than they actually were. And it brought up that whole thing again for me, and it just revisited why I just couldn't stand Elizabeth, right, for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't necessarily shock me what she was doing and what her and Nicholas was doing. It just served to just kind of reinforce an instinct and an innate hatred for the character that Elizabeth has. When she wants to, she can be sweet as pie, she can be very helpful, she can be a good girl, but when it comes to her and Jason, she throws it all to the wind in order to be like, because she felt like she and Jason deserved to be together no matter what. And that's one of the things that I kind of appreciated about her relationship with Franco, because she kind of let that go. Like, she was finally able to be like, okay, me and Jason are finally not meant to be, no matter what I do to make it happen. It's just not going to happen. So I need to move on and go for somebody else. And I appreciated that about Franco, because it drew her away from that whole Jason obsession that I needed her to get rid of, because it was just like crazy to me how willing she was going, how low she was willing to go to make sure that she had some connection to him, even if it wasn't the real him. Even if, you know, it was like crazy how, you know, she was willing to do that. So yeah.
I love the look away that you just did. That means you're about to say some real shit. Tell us. I'm ready.
I don't even know what I'm gonna say. So we all know I'm not a member of either side in the Jason Dick wars of the aughts and beyond. I guess it began in the 90s. I don't know, but if we want to go all the way back to when Liaison first started, and that also meant that I just kind of like rode the wave of those storylines, like enjoyed them for what they were. Enjoyed the couples for what they had to offer, didn't really take sides, although I've always been like more of a Sam fan, even though I did actually really, really love Elizabeth as a teenager. But I also like wasn't anti-Jason at the time. I wouldn't say I was a Jason fan, but I enjoyed him. I understood like the role that he played. I understood his importance to the canvas and like what he brought at that time, which unfortunately they never really developed him beyond where he was in the late 90s and the aughts, right? He just kind of stayed that character forever. But I stopped fucking with Jason with the Franco storyline, actually, when Sam thought that Danny was Franco's. First of all, that storyline was awful. Totally understand that that's why you stopped watching, Tracey. It was really, really unwatchable. And then for it to be followed up with Jason being so awful to Sam after she had thought she had been raped and was potentially carrying her rapist's child and holding all of the complexity of like, she didn't think that she would be able to have another baby. So, and having suffered losing a child, and that being how they actually got together. And so for him to be so self-centered and callous towards Sam, I was like, I'm done with Jason forever. And then he died, and I was like, whatever, bye. So when they brought him back, I was like, whatever, sure. I knew this was going to happen. Like, Jason's not dead. And I actually started to become invested in Jason again because of the way that Billy Miller played him.
Yeah.
And because of the investment that you said, Tracey, like the investment, the strategy in getting folks to feel invested in a new Jason also meant giving him the space to be different and let the actor have a different, take on him. And I was like, wow, Jason with a personality. Who would have thunk it? This is delightful. And it for me, the Jason that Billy Miller brought through is like, what could Jason have been like as both like not a Q and not trapped in this mobster like Arrested Development situation with like where he was just completely stagnant. What would it actually look like for Jason to grow up and realize that he needs to prioritize his children and the mother of his children? What would it look for Jason to actually pursue a new career? Does he have other skills besides killing people? Sure, maybe. So in real time, I was like, it was the most I ever cared about Jason. It was the only time I was a J-Sam fan. Like, I shipped them. So of course, and I know we're not really talking about this storyline right now. No. When Steve Burton came back, I was devastated.
I remember.
I was so full of dread, the way that you are when you ship a couple and you know that they're about to break up. And part of that grief was just like, we just went on this wild emotional roller coaster and now you're taking it away. Why? And on top of that, we have the Elizabeth and Nicholas angle of the storyline where they were both pretty awful. They had already both like had a serious fall from grace with the Lucky affair. And then this is like the next thing that you launch them into. Like, I understand why Elizabeth fans don't like the storyline. It does not paint her in a good light. I already was struggling with Elizabeth, but after this, I was like, Elizabeth is she's not my enemy, but she's my frenemy. Like, that's how I feel about Elizabeth, where I'm like, she should have a storyline, but damn, she gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
And like, sometimes it's going to be on site with her, but sometimes I'm going to defend her. And that's just, that's what it's like when you've known someone for, 25 years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I also like, it was also such a moment where we really see Nicholas fully choosing Dark Prince Cassadine, which I think that Tyler can sell, right? Like, I was actually watching and I was like, God, you're so not shit, Nicholas. You're so not shit in the way that I talk about him now. But I was also like, and I still feel like you're Nicholas. I still feel like the conflict. I see these moments that you're choosing. So Tyler was selling it, even though it was a really bad storyline for him and it was not a cute look. And I think it's disappointing that they really assassinated both Liz and Nicholas's characters. Only to do what? To have Steve Burton come back, and none of that really matter. But we also never really like built those characters back up to where they were. Not to say like we can just forget everything that they did. I don't need that. But like from a long-term perspective, and now that Steve is gone, I'm even more like, why?
What was the reason?
So that sounds like a perfect place for you to pick up, Tracey.
I was like, what was the reason? I'm so mad about it. I'll also say, I mean, you know, Nina is my enemy. And I think that part of the reason I am okay almost with like, I want Elizabeth to have like a good storyline, a point of view, all of these things on the canvas now, is because every time Elizabeth does some bullshit, they make her pay for that shit. Every single time her character does something that you're like, this is unforgivable, like they put her through the ringer afterwards. And that is really important for soap fans to be able to like look at a character again and be like, oh yeah, of course. Like we understand the ebbs and flows, but not having that like actually is what makes like certain characters kind of unwatchable for me. And I wonder how much of it is like the real world versus like the real world happening, where actors are like, actually, people fucking hate me and I'm getting assassinated on the internet. And so you need to do something better for me, which is what I think kind of is happening with Carly when we look at like them giving her friends and all of this. It's because like, instead of putting Carly on ice as they should, they are actually trying to like make her more like relatable.
Likable, yeah.
And more likable, which is I think what happened with the Brit storyline and like why they're trying to like soften her. And I don't know. I don't necessarily need that from her. I think that it's fine to like backburner a character, and give other people space to play and to be and to like grow. I'll also say that the growth that we saw from Sam's character after being with Patrick, who, I mean, I just can't, because, and I am like now obsessed with this because I didn't watch it in real time and I've watched it back, like this was amazing. And like the growth that we saw her have with like the Drew character is actually the growth that Carly deserved if she wasn't caught up in this vortex of Sonny and Jason. So even when you hear Carly talk about Jason, now she's like, he was my best friend. He allowed me, anytime I needed him, he would come for me. And it's like, but you're a grown ass woman with all these kids. Why do you always need somebody? You know what I'm saying? Like in the same ways that you did 20, 25 years ago. You should actually be an adult now. And you should grow into that. And this is somebody, I like Carly. But I think that she deserves a growth that she can never have when she's like constantly suspended in like time and space with Jason and Sonny. And that really struck me as to why Sam has had like a trajectory. And I actually hated when I actually came back at the same time Steve Burton came back. So the storyline that I entered back into watching GH with was literally Steve Burton coming back. And so I still didn't want him back with Sam because I saw like the growth in her, and then she had to go backwards. I don't know if you remember, Sam was ridiculous for a little minute when Steve Burton was back. When she like was going to jail, like that's the reason Valentine has like the EOQ shares. Like it was absurd. Like it was just so bad, and it was not in service of all the growth that they've done for this character. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got for that.
Absolutely. Like it's like everyone has more of an opportunity to grow when Jason goes, because Jason's like such a static character.
Yeah.
Like also why I don't really care. I mean, whatever, if they want to recast him, they can. But like I don't really think the character brings anything to the canvas besides like not anything new. There's like nothing generative about his character.
Right. Even when Monica was talking about, she's like, oh, Jason hasn't like called me. I'm like, do Jason call you? Because Drew is clearly your superior son. Like, Monica, you won. Your better son is back.
Well, I kind of think of that she was referring to how close Jason and her had become. Like he would visit her every once in a while. I don't know about the calling thing, but he had been more conscious of the relationship that he had with her. But still, I think Drew, when Drew was there, was doing more of that than Jason was. And maybe Jason was doing that more because Drew was gone. But really, when it in a comparison, while the two of them both were alive, Drew was more her son than Jason.
Forever.
Yeah.
I think there was so much, I mean, retconning that happened just this week about Jason, where like people were like, he must be with his children. Oh, that's why I haven't heard from Jason lately. Because we never actually saw those things. We rarely saw them happen on screen, and not in the way that they used to happen between Drew and Monica, where that was like a regular thing. And for a while, Drew was living at the Q Mansion for like a while. So he was like, he has been a quartermain in a way that Jason hasn't been since the mid-90s.
Tonya, I'm curious, how did you feel about Sam and Patrick? How did you feel about Rick like doing what Rick did? Like, how did you feel about that when you watch it in real time?
Sam and Patrick was interesting to me. I don't know. I did, because I knew that Robin was out there, and so I was just like, I didn't quite understand. And again, I think Patrick served in a way, like he also has that kind of I'm a goody person, attitude.
Yeah.
And so bringing that into mix with Sam was a little bit. And so I didn't necessarily like Patrick as a character. So I didn't necessarily want them to be together per se. And then, never really liked Rick at all. So I didn't like him being on screen. I think he's a great foil to the whole Sunny scene. That's good. And is he dead?
No.
Or is he just gone?
He's just faded off the canvas somewhere.
Just disappeared. So yeah. I don't know. I didn't necessarily like the Sam and Patrick pairing at all. And it just kind of served as a buffer, I guess, until Robin or Jason came back. I always felt like that. Like Sam needed something to do or somebody to be with until the real people came back. So
yeah. I feel like that was what the couple was intended to be so clearly, and yet the actors' chemistry took it to the next level. I'm also not a Scrubs fan. I'm like probably maybe the only like Anna super fan that doesn't really like Robin. Sorry, other Anna fans. You still love me. So I was never really that invested in Scrubs, and so I was interested in seeing Patrick with someone else, just because I think Jason Thompson's so good. And at the same time, like this kind of was one of his last storylines on GH. And so I felt like it did kind of suck that he didn't really get a real storyline that wasn't about Robin. And like this was another storyline where he kind of was like waiting around for Robin kind of, and or the bridge for Jason and Sam to get back together. But I appreciated that it was like such a high quality bridge relationship, and that when they broke up, when Sam found out about Jason being alive, it wasn't really Jason, I was like already rooting for Jason and Sam at that point, But I was still like, oh, that's a shame. This was a good relationship. It was interesting. And the one thing that it did bring up for me that relates back to what's going on now is Sante. And I was like, ooh, is Sante another Sam trick? I don't want that. And I think that's part of the reason why I haven't, I spit. You know, when I spit and I'm getting upset. I don't want that for them. And I think that's why I haven't been getting invested in them. It's just like, oh, this is going to be another Sam trick. But I think it actually would be really interesting if this time around, like if they were, for God forbid, bring Lulu back. And if they were to explore a new dream, to actually have those couples have Sante break up because they feel like they need to be with the, you know, their co-parents, and then actually have them get back together. Because I miss the days of like people being able to be in multiple like super couple relationships. Like, I don't want people to still come back over and over again to the same standard like have 2 or 3. Everyone should have 2 or 3 like big loves that you at least rotate around. I will say that was the nice thing about the J-Sam liaison love triangle, is that they were both really invested in, even if liaison never really got their, you know, happy time that J-Sam got. Like, they were both important relationships and there was no denying that. I don't want, and I feel like Dante never got that.
I deny it.
You deny Lante. I know you deny.
No, I deny liaison. Actually.
Oh, you deny. Well, that is your opinion. I don't care either way. Because I revoked my J-Sam fan membership, you know, as soon as Steve Burton came back.
It's not a part of it is that about like my liaison, whatever, it wasn't built to work with Jason and the mob. And that's what made J-Sam work. That's why Jabrit was like a little bit interesting. I just don't feel like continuing to get invested in relationships that are going to end the same way. I think the mob stuff is the reason liaison just never was going to work. And it was almost annoying to like see, like when a relationship starts, to see the end of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you knew that there was no way that like Jason and Elizabeth could ever work, considering that Jason, so like a Jason and like a Drew, or a Drew, Jason and Elizabeth totally could have worked. But Steve Burton, Jason and Elizabeth never could. And I just wasn't invested in like seeing the same kind of boring, oh, we have to break up for the kids thing continue to play out. And I just don't put those relationships on the same level. And I think that people try to, and I don't agree with that. And that's not a denial. I think that Steve Burton and Becky Hurst had like really, really amazing chemistry. And it was like understandable why they would continue to come back to it. I think that like Jason so clearly has like a soft spot for Elizabeth. Like if you think back to when Sam like watched Jake get kidnapped, which was like a very rough time to be a Sam fan. And like that was a very rough time. And then Jason like threatened to fucking kill Sam. He was like, I will kill you. And when we found out that Elizabeth had like held back about Sam's baby being alive, just because like she was kind of mad about Jake, Jason was like, I understand. It's okay, babe. Like it was like like Jason very clearly has a soft spot for Elizabeth. And like, so I'm not making comparisons to like his feelings, but I just don't think the couples are on the same whatever.
Sure. I mean, I don't disagree. I think mostly what I was speaking to was just that there be that depth of feeling, if not an equal relationship with multiple people.
Yeah.
For characters. Like, I think there are some, it's like Carson and Carjax, for example, are not equal relationships. but you can't, but Jax was still really, really important to Carly and such a driver in her story, and was for so long, that was refreshing. Even as I say this, even as I hate Jax now, like I liked Car Jax because I was like, ooh, this is something different. And there's real investment here. It's not just a relationship that's being set up to fail to bring the two faves back together in 9 months.
Right. I agree. I like Car Jax too. I think that somebody like Anna, for example, also has like multiple loves and like multiple ships. I mean, people still love her and Robert. Her and Drew were like, not Drew, what am I saying? Duke were like really, really fucking important. People loved her and Finn, even though like that's not on the same level, but they loved it. Her and Valentine, like Anna's a person who's just like, Anna can carry her a ship. Like,
and I feel that way about Kelly Monaco, you know, like she, give her something good and she'll run with it. Give her something bad and she'll still try to run with it, you know. Yeah, I think the same about Becky as well.
Yeah, definitely. Becky has just been, I mean, because you remember that, didn't they try to fire her back in the day?
Oh yeah, they tried to fire her.
Fans like uprose, and even Tyler Christopher and Jonathan Jackson were like, she's one of the best people we've ever worked with. She's amazing. I love her. Like they shouldn't have let her go. And they were like, just kidding. We didn't mean to let her go.
And I think it speaks a lot that people speak so well of Becky. People don't ever have bad things to say about working with her. They only have good things to say about her. And that even people who hate her character are like, where's she at?
Give her something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Give my frenemy more airtime so I could be mad at her.
Right.
Complicated feelings about her.
Yes. I want somebody I love to hate, not somebody I hate to hate, like Nina.
Or Pete
Ramsey, get out of here.
Shout out to stabbing him with a needle.
So let's do some behind the scenes stuff, because there's 2 things I want to bring up.
Oh.
Ooh.
So let's start with Pete. So first there was a parade. And so there were multiple cars for like different soaps, different like shows. So there was a ABC soap or General Hospital Legends car, and it had the actor who played Duke. It had Laura Wright, and then it had Wes Ramsey. And people had things to say. People actually had things to say about both Laura Wright and Wes Ramsey being in the car. I don't have those feelings about Laura Wright being there, but I certainly have those feelings about Wes Ramsey being there. Yeah, so just want to hear what y'all think. I will go on record, Wes shouldn't have been in that car. I actually would love to forget that Wes was ever on General Hospital. I'm sure he's a very nice man. And no.
And I feel like he was probably just there because Laura Wright's guest.
Sure.
But they should have, and I don't know if they actually tried to get an actual legend to sit in that spot and they just couldn't. And so they just said, okay, fine, you right too. But
they should have left it blank. He should have been in the crowd taking pictures.
I'm sure lots of people in that parade had dates that they did not bring onto the parade float with them.
True. Yeah, maybe more of an effort could have been made.
I mean,
and then like Christina, it would have been perfect to have Christina Wagner since apparently she's coming back.
Yeah.
She's in the area.
Yeah. And sorry, no disrespect, Ian Buchanan is his name.
Ian, who is an actual legend.
A legend.
And I have zero problem with Laura Wright being there. Like, she's been on daytime forever. Mm-hmm. She is now playing like one of the most like well-known, I won't say beloved characters. I will say
notoriety.
Carly is legendary for sure. Carly is definitely a legendary character. And I'm not going to go into like, I know a lot of people were like, what does it mean to be a legend versus whatever. I don't really care about that. I do think it's just like, why? Oh, to have the confidence of Wes Ramsey. If only we all had that kind of confidence, what could we accomplish in the world? Because, you know, he knows people do not like him and he doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to keep collecting my checks. I'm going to collect my check. Or I don't know, maybe if he took some of his general hospital check to pay someone to let him be in the parade. I don't know if he got paid to be in the parade. I mean, I can speculate all kinds of things that are very unkind. But at the end of the day, I have to respect his confidence. Very confident man.
You are such a Libra right now, and my Leo is coming out. I'm like, so one of my favorite things that happened on the internet was, so if you know me, you know how I feel about the movie Save the Last Dance. If you don't know me, I'll tell you I hate it. But one of the worst things is that they tried to make us believe that that girl's dance at the end of the in the movie was going to get her into Juilliard. That dance was awful. Like, she was not getting it. And one of the worst things that has ever happened in our childhood is that somebody tried to make us believe she was dancing well. And so somebody put like a split screen of her, like what's her name?
Julia Stiles
and Wes Ramsey. It was like they went to Juilliard together. And I was done. I turned off the internet for myself that day. I was like, I'm done here. I've had enough. Thank you. I think you're muted, Tonya.
Sorry, I was saying you quit internet that day.
I was like, we're done here.
It's over.
Trying to behave myself. Clearly not on this show, but that day on the internet, I was trying to behave myself.
Yep. Juilliard just ain't what it used to be, you know?
I don't know what it used to be, but you know, sometimes people squeak through, whether it's on scholarship or legacy, certain kinds of legacy.
Being a tall white man.
Exactly. And I think that kind of goes to the confidence that you were speaking of, because you know, though some white men feel entitled to whatever it is that, you know, they deserve to be everywhere, even when they don't. Which I think we'll go into the next topic.
Look, I'm like, look at that transition about the entitlement of white men. I see you, Tonya. You doing okay. You better seamlessly transition us. So everybody's least favorite, former Jasper Jax, got on his Instagram literally like an hour before we started recording, to talk about how he felt disrespected by Nancy Lee Grahn because she was the one who like announced that he was like leaving GH and he didn't get a chance to do it himself and he would record more about it later. And he said he would talk more, but he said he would talk more about Nancy later, which, you know, my messy ass will be
waiting for that.
Yeah, I will be tuned in. I will just say that one of my favorite parts of GH this week is when Sonny was like, Jocelyn's my daughter. I was like, oh shit, that man is gone. Like, Sonny took your fucking kid. He done took Brenda from you. He done took Carly from you. Now he took your kid from you. You're out of here, Jax. What do y'all think about Ingo still going? My God, give this man some attention.
I mean, first of all, like weeks later, you trying to make yourself relevant now
because you're not that lifeguard job because he ain't get the next.
So I'm just like, dude, you should have said something immediately after Nancy announced you, but you didn't say nothing. And so you're going to come out a week later and be like, by the way, hello, here I am. Don't forget about me. Forget about Steve Burton. I'm the one that's important here. No one thinks you're important at all. No. And so you just stay out of that.
I'm just here for the Nancy tea. I'm just here for the Nancy tea. I want to know. I mean, I know what he's gonna say, but also maybe he'll say something really wild that I'm not expecting. You never know with Ingo. You never know. The timing's weird. He's just a fucking clown. I don't know what else to say about him at this point. He's a clown. And he continues to like make me defend Nancy, which I don't appreciate, but here we are.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad that he's gone and, you know, people can have storylines now and it means Alexis is out of jail.
I mean, if he's a clown, let's talk about who else is at the circus.
Marcus
Coloma liked it, which is why he got that little bit of slander at the beginning. Because I got my eye on you, Marcus. I already don't fuck with you and you're already not my Nicholas, but you're doing too much out here in these streets. You're doing too much, Marcus. You're doing too much.
Yep. Doing too much and too little all at the same time. It's astounding. It's astounding. My one piece of Marcus Coloma's slander for the episode. I mean, I'm sure I've done others, but when we were watching the Cassadine Thanksgiving, I was like, good on them for giving Marcus like the right amount of lines, which was almost none.
How difficult is it to be any of the legends in the scenes with him and get in like have to act with him? My God. And even the newbies, like Nicholas Chavez got to pretend like he ain't better than him because he's trying to be humble and shit. Like, I don't have that kind of humility.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have more to say, but I'm gonna hold my, I'm holding my slander for when Marcus has more of a scene. I'm all about biding my time. I have a lot of patience.
You can follow Marcus Coloma World, aka Marcus Coloma's burner account to find.
Oh, slander.
You know that's that man's burner account.
Just in case you didn't understand what Tracey was implying, she was implying that Marcus Coloma World is run by Marcus Coloma. Translation. I can neither confirm nor deny. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait for the inevitable slip up where he forgets to change accounts over.
I will say
all it is him reposting himself, so I guess it won't really matter. I'm just saying, if you're Marcus Coloma World, how you finding videos before he posts them? How are you reposting something from your fan account always? Okay, sure it's not you. I believe you. Anyway, does anyone have any general hot takes? I have a list, so I'm excited.
Well, go ahead.
Y'all ready for my? All right. Portia got dinner catered. I know that's right. We need more TJ. Another Star Wars prequel crossover with Carly and Britt. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Jonathan Jackson should have been in the prequels. And that Anakin Skywalker meme where they were like, when he was like, everything's okay, right? And then it's like blank and it's like Britt was like, everything's okay, right, Britt? It felt like another crossover for me. Nina, do not compare your grief to Phyllis's. That scene was weird and I hated it. You brought that shit upon yourself and Phyllis's husband died.
Mm-hmm.
BLQ did not do any of this to protect Bailey. I need her to stop saying that. She did that shit for them cheers. I have in my notes Scout hugging Dante.
I know.
Like with that face. Anybody remember when Jason said he was going to raise Danny and Scout?
He didn't raise any of them.
Didn't raise nobody.
Except Michael.
Carly was crying with her husband over y'all shared one true love. Maybe y'all should have been a throuple.
GH just won't let them be great.
I made a note about I enjoyed them using more off-screen exposition so that when we come back, characters are reacting to things that they heard off-screen. Damn, how many people ain't gonna make Jocelyn lose? Is what my notes said. Not Monica still shipping Charlie. Yuck.
Justice for Monica.
Monica deserves better.
I'm glad they didn't make us do the Carly Monica scene. I'm glad that was a voicemail.
Same. Very same. Britton Austin? Question mark? I really do care about Drew grieving Jason. I'm surprised by that.
That's generous of you. I don't.
Why is Carly on this damn bridge? Question mark. Jason and Robin fans were pissed, and I understood it. Get that grief sex, Sam. You go, girl.
I loved it.
BLQ was not close to Jason. Did he even care when Nell slashed her throat? Question mark.
No. My note for that was BLQ has no memories of this man.
Sorry to this man.
Sorry to this man. I don't know who he is.
I don't mean to sound ridiculous, but I don't have any idea who this man is. Sorry to this man.
Jason? Who?
An Oscar mention, explanation point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The quote, anxious to get back to your old life, cutting away to Sante, boom chicka bomb bomb. Damn, Spinelli left his family for the mob, and now this. You've been, quote, you've been dead for a long time. And Spencer looks back at Nicholas.
So petty. I loved it.
And I was just wondering if that was something Nicholas Chavez did just on his own, because we know he has those instincts, or if that was written in, because it was amazing.
There were a lot of good reaction looks, that one. And then whenever Spencer's like, I always liked you, Uncle Victor. I always thought you were a good man. Ava was like, looking at Nicholas like, your son is doing the most.
Your tweet about that, when Trina told you to find Victor, this was not what she meant with your literal ass. Like, it was
nope.
Amazing.
Trina, I found him. Honey, no, that's not it. Nice try though.
Maxie basically called Chase and BLQ little bitches.
It's the smartest Maxie has been in years.
Spinelli and Sunny scenes, surprisingly touching.
Yep.
Sunny won't curse in front of Donna, will talk about murder. Drew sure does love kids. Every time he was like, Donna's so beautiful. I'm like, didn't Drew know that they had a baby?
Yes.
And does Drew still have Jason's memories? I'm confused as to what's happening there.
I've been wondering that for months. And no, I don't know.
Two things. We must have been in the house for too long, because why am I finding Cameron Matheson attractive? Also, get Drew Lavery a bigger shirt. Why is he popping out of this shirt?
So tight. It's like he was wearing one of Dante's shirts.
Maybe the one he got off the floor after Sante sex. Peter, please, my God, make it stop. Why? Please, no more, is what this note says.
Yeah.
I've had enough. Vanna hugs. The sexy chemistry is one thing, but the friendship chemistry is what makes them excellent. How does James know Drew? When Maxie was like, James is going to be excited to see you. I'm like, maybe he knows him, but why is he going to be excited?
I don't really, I can't remember when she had James. Was Drew still around? I mean, I guess he was,
Sure.
but was he still Jason? If he was still Jason, I could understand them having a relationship because of like Spinelli and all that, but it felt like a big stretch.
Yeah, I don't even remember them interacting, him and Maxie interacting at all. Except for in the sense that I guess maybe when they were working in the same building because of Aurora and
I'm just assuming that all of these relationships were like established when he was Jason, and that's like where it's coming from. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's a big assumption.
yeah.
I mean, obviously they're just setting it up to be more dramatic whenever Drew inevitably kidnaps Maxie and or Bailey.
Look at you, smart. Overall, I'm glad that we are seeing a focus on relationships and character interactions. We need to see more of that. Why did they randomly talk about Liz's dad and do absolutely nothing with it? It's honestly insulting to make Roger Howarth act with this cartoon character. I did love the stab.
Right.
I did also like his look of disgust the whole time because I was just like, this wasn't much acting for Roger. I'm sure Roger's very nice, but come on.
Yeah, come on. Nina telling Carly and Sonny how to behave with Sasha and Brando made my eye twitch. Carly is a disaster of a person, but she is loyal, and one thing she knows how to do is act with people she loves in crisis.
For me, that whole scene was just like, Nina, are you trying to provoke Carly? Like, are you just going out of your way to get on her nerves? Because especially since I think Carly had last week said, okay, I'm gonna go to Sonny. I'm gonna stop obsessing about Nina. It's fine. I'm over it. And then all of a sudden, Nina's just like, you guys need to be careful with how are you
with them?
Be gentle with them. Like, who are you to tell them what to do? It's just like
so weird.
Ma'am, kindly shut the fuck up.
It was weird.
The correct thing for her to do would have been what Britt tried to do the first time she
walk away,
which was like, nope, not ready for this.
I'm gonna walk away right now.
It was like the most relatable thing Britt did all week. I was like, yeah, girl, same. That's what you do.
That is what she did. Let's see. Oh God, what are they about to do with this vial of blood? Please tell me they're not gonna clone PLP. It was just too much of a close-up for me. I was like, what's going on? I don't like it. I saw a different online, but I actually appreciated Carly calling Monica. One, because I didn't have to see Monica be subjected to Carly. But two, I think that there is a bond there as grieving mothers. They can have that moment and not be besties, but there doesn't have to be a blood feud when they're both grieving.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would have hit differently if there hadn't been all the Jarly propping this year with Monica. And that's part of like the point of tension is just like, just let them actually have the genuine relationship what they have, which can be both grieving mothers and extreme animosity.
As it should be.
And I love messy Monica. That bitch is messy.
I love a messy matriarch. Messy ass Bobby? Where was she at? Bring her back. I love it.
Let's bring some Monica and Bobby mess. Like, let them duke it out again. I mean, come on.
That was my hot takes for the week.
I think I mostly just have one that I haven't already commented on, which is we didn't get Sweet Simple Cam this week, but we got Sweet Simple Amy.
Oh,
Sweet Simple Amy. If Nina doesn't do that nurse photo shoot, that's real fucked up. But also, I don't want to see it happen on screen either. So yes, and unless it's going to feature Liz. So, but Sweet Simple Amy, I was like, you poor thing. You're so sweet and so simple.
The only thing I didn't already comment on was there being a media blackout because of Jason Morgan's death. And I was like, why? Was Jason that famous that the media has decided not to report on it so as to protect Michael's feelings? That was crazy. I was just like poor Charles ain't all of that. Really?
That's hilarious. Really astute observation because there's a media blackout for Jason, but y'all couldn't put Sonny's picture on the news when he was in Pennsylvania. Y'all, are you famous or are you not famous? Which one is it?
That was just crazy to me.
They do a media blackout, but they still don't bother to tell Liz. Damn, that's like pretty cold.
Double homicide.
So,
well, do you have any additional things to wrap up before Sandra gets into predictions?
No, I think I commented on everything. It was just funny.
I have not seen any spoilers, so I'm really excited for Sandra's predictions because I think they're going to be a mixture, right?
Yes. Predictions. I also would put a lot of this firmly in the category of wild speculation. I feel like that opens us up a little bit more. Like predictions make me feel like I need to say something that I actually think is going to happen versus wild speculation is I just feel more free. So I hope you all feel free to speculate on what I'm speculating on. So as folks know, there will be some light spoilers. So if you don't like to be spoiled, now's the time to check out. So this week, we'll be seeing Laura and Martin back on the campus. We saw a preview scene with them, probably still in witness protection. Laura saying she needs to get out. I'm guessing we'll see them back in Port Charles by the end of the week, if not sooner. And between Cyrus's call to Sunny and Laura and Martin's return, we should expect this family storyline to return to the front burner this month and into 2022, which will also have ripple effects on the Cassadines and the Ashford Robinson families. What ripple effects? I don't know. But clearly, with the new additions coming to the Ashford family, which I guess is mostly just Cat Daddy Snooper, but whatever else he's bringing with him. So let's talk about the Cassadines. Victor warned his family on Thanksgiving that a threat is going to step out of the shadows soon. Who is that threat? Cyrus is a possibility. We've named this before, since we know he has beef with nephew Nicholas and has been keeping tabs on grandnephew Spencer. However, I also think there's another strong possibility that the new threat is Marshall, Hat Daddy Snooper Ashford. he keeps alluding to being unable to reach out to Curtis for the last few decades, right? He keeps saying, like, I couldn't reach out to you, but now I can. Who is more equipped to fake people's deaths and hold them for captive for years on end but the Cassadines?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been seeing hints of an upcoming Ashford Robinson versus Cassadine family feud, with Portia's disdain for them and her reading Nicholas. Everything she said has been like really accurate about Nicholas. And that's of course hilarious to me, but I've been having a hard time understanding how this feud was actually going to be substantive, right? It's felt like right on for a mother being protective of her daughter, but also like a little bit below full-blown family feud. So if Spencer's family actually held Trina's hat granddaddy hostage for decades, what kind of drama does that mean for Sprina? And especially since Spencer seems likely to be getting closer to Uncle Victor to spite Nicholas, I just have a feeling that Trina would not approve. You know, I don't think Trina would approve of, grand uncle Victor Cassadine Sheffield. You know, I just don't think that's really her vibe. Speaking of Victor, Viva la Viva.
Mm-hmm.
Viva is the new smush name for Victor and Ava. So there have been crack ship rumblings. For folks who don't know, crack ship is like a ship that you just throw together and you think, oh, we'll never get together. So there have been rumblings about Victor and Ava for a while, mostly from folks who are done with Nicholas and enjoy Ava as a Cassadine. I am folks. In the holiday preview that premiered early last week, kind of previewing Jeannie's re-entry onto the canvas in time for the holidays. So there was video of Kevin and Laura, Sprina, Esme, Cam, plus Victor, Ava, and Nicholas. And I was definitely, spot some chem between Ava and Victor. And I thought maybe I was just reading into things because I'm just ready for Ava to be free. But the sneak preview for this upcoming week really features, I think, some pretty sizzling chemistry between Ava and Victor, including Victor inviting Ava to call him Uncle Victor. More like Daddy Victor. Meanwhile, Marcus Coloma's Nicholas, who I've actually started referring to in my head as Mick Nicholas because it's always like MC Nicholas. So Mick Nicholas stands there looking like an the empty-headed, inconsequential third wheel afterthought than he is. So I see that my wild speculation is that Victor is actually going to be the next Cassadine for Ava, leaving Nicholas humiliated and possibly moving on to someone else. And we all know how he's been looking at Portia. I know people don't want to hear it, but it's true. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. They're definitely playing around with it. Speaking of returning characters, Felicia's coming back, which we've known about for a little while, but Christina Wagner actually announced that she is back on contract. So this is the first time she's been back on contract. I think since she basically came back on the canvas in 2003 or so. And so I assume that means that she's going to be involved with Maxie and the baby swap storyline. I wonder how Felicia will feel about her bestie Anna getting so cozy with Valentine. But what I am wondering about the most is, what does this mean for her being part of the Ryan Chamberlain storyline? So it would be interesting to see her and Ava bond over being the objects of Ryan's obsession. Felicia was gone, I think, for most of the storyline last time when Ryan was back. Like, she was there at the beginning. I went back and rewatched some of it yesterday because I got excited thinking about this. Her and Mac went on a cruise for like most of the storyline, and then he like met Ava and became obsessed with her. So I would be interested to see Ava and Felicia interact. I don't think we've ever seen them interact before, or if we have, it's just been in passing. So I would love some bonding there. Maybe them having like a team up. That could be interesting. It'd be cool to just see different characters interacting that we don't normally see, especially Ava's been trapped with Nicholas for so long. And even though that storyline about the stalker was supposedly, the stalker is like Ava's storyline, it wasn't about her at all. I'd also be interested to see an Esme and Felicia run in. Since Esme is such a Ryan fangirl, she'd know all about Felicia and surely would find a way to creep Felicia the fuck out, as she is wont to do. She's very good at that. And speaking of creeps, Constance Towers is rumored to be reprising her role as Helena for one episode. Don't get too excited.
Oh.
So it's going to be taped in December and will be airing, I'm assuming, early 2022. So since she's only coming back for one episode so far that we know of, she's probably gonna either come back as a ghost or a flashback or in video format, like she's come, to deliver messages beyond the grave. But the post on her Facebook page, which is where like the information got leaked from, indicates that Constance would be interested in coming back for a fuller storyline, and so she is encouraging fans to hype up her on social media, which I do all the time anyway. I love you. You crazy matriarch. Done, queen. I want Helena back in full force. I'm enjoying Victor as like the self-named patriarch, right? But let's face it, as we all know, the Cassadines are meant to be a matriarchy. So that's my wild speculation for the week and beyond. What do you all have to say about it? Do you have anything to add?
I'm excited for a possibility of Helena. I will be harassing Frank. I will add it to my list of people to harass Frank about. And I have never liked Felicia as a character, but I do like the actress. People were asking if Frisco would come back. No, I bet you his ass ain't even vaxxed, if we being real about it, because he's super MAGA. But I am excited for Felicia. And hopefully like they give her some like interesting things to do. What I've loved the most, I love when Maxie cusses Felicia out. So I know that they're not in that place anymore. Maxie going off on Felicia at Georgie's funeral is probably one of my top GH funeral moments, including Nicholas, the real Nicholas, going off at Emily's funeral. But I do hope that we still get into like some of that tension for them.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what kind of story she's going to bring, because she doesn't really necessarily have one. So
that's how I felt when Tracey, I think you were the one who was like, oh, Felicia's back. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then when I started thinking about Ryan, then I was like, oh, I see. Yes. So that's what I'm most interested in. Like, I like Anna having her friend around, which is like a lot of the role that Felicia's played when they've had her coming back in this recurring way. And being Grandma Felicia to kind of also redeem her for all the years when she was a terrible deadbeat mom, which is one of the reasons why I haven't really fucked with Felicia. But it just to me is like a sign of like, okay, we're going to finally get this Ryan storyline going that they've been teasing us with for the past year. And I need it. Yeah. Let me tell you, I just went back and watched probably about half the arc yesterday. And I was like, I need more of this. And I need my John Lindstrom fix. Let's do this.
For sure. I think that they must have been, for whatever reason, holding off on the Ryan stuff for Felicia. So that's really exciting to me. And then also like I forgot that like Felicia was a part of the tangentially part of that like last Drew Jason return, because they had just like stolen the mayoral election from her.
Right.
And Nicholas like helped with stealing it. So, does Port Charles ever have like a mayoral election that's not stolen and is it ever not a Cassadine who's like stealing some shit with it? Because the last one Spencer stole.
At least Spencer was on the right side of history.
True.
And I think what Spencer actually ended up doing, didn't he just like keep the polls open longer or something? It wasn't as shady as Nicholas.
Spencer doing more to protect the vote than Democrats. Look at him.
Exactly. Spencer was actually protecting the vote. So he's perfect and he never does anything wrong.
Hashtag, I'm a Spencer apologist. So, you know.
Until it comes to Trina. And that's where
then no.
is, obviously.
Spencer is kicking it with Stacey Abrams. They out here trying to protect the vote. That's what we're doing it.
He'll be working on her campaign for governor. Trina will be consulting. Obviously. Getting that consulting money.
As she should. What a queen.
I am curious about, what do you all think about what Trina, like, what does the Cassadine upsurgence mean for Sprina? Because I wasn't really expecting Spencer to embrace Victor so openly.
Neither.
So what does this mean for his redemption arc?
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe Esme may try to be like, okay, so maybe Uncle Victor can help us with our money situation. And so that's why, like, one of the ideas that I had about them all moving into the house would actually give, you know, Spencer, I guess, the permission he needs to move back in or whatever. So maybe that will be Esbe's next angle. And then that will, again, kind of pull Spencer into getting back in to his old ways, which Trina probably will have a problem with. So
I actually would love to see Trina not have so much of a problem with Spencer's bad ways. Like, you know, we like them and he's a complicated, I don't know, like Nicholas wasn't like not complicated when he was with Emily, right? Like there was like a balance, and Valentine is not Valentine with Anna. And so I would love to see a little bit of Trina playing some of that Anna role, to be like, you right here. And so I feel like for me, there has to be a hump that they get over where Trina like trusts him, cares for him, whatever, and like opens herself to him, and then also like allows herself to be in partnership with him in some of his not the best ways. So I'm wondering, and what I would like to happen is like something happens that makes Trina be like, okay, I have to protect myself. Like maybe something with Cyrus, it's like I actually do need somebody who was not a goody-goody.
It would also be interesting if Trina got to explore some of her own dark side, the way that Anna gets to with Valentine.
Right.
It's like a little bit different because Anna's dark side already was like front and center at one point in her life, and she got to move away from it. But it would be nice. I mean, that is kind of like the joy of being with a bad boy when you're a good girl. Is like, that's part of the appeal. So I hope that we actually get to see more connection between Sprina and like more building of the relationship before the Cassadine family interferes with it as much as, you know, inevitably they're going to. But I do think, I'm hoping that, I mean, I need more Sprina. I need them to make some sort of progress. Not to say, and I actually do feel like they've been making progress. I know folks feel differently about it. I feel like their storyline's progressing, and it's definitely like I'm feeling the itch from the drought. So we are seeing them this week. I don't know if we're seeing them together, but we will see both Spencer and Trina in the same episode, and juiciness will abound.
Yeah. I had posted something from our like Sunday Shift Twitter, and it was really a joke that it was like you know, we saw no Cam, no Trina, a glimpse of Jocelyn, and like a couple scenes of Spencer. Like, where are our kids? And people like were quick to like, people were like, they're in college, calm down. I'm like, first of all, I don't know if you know how much research we do for this podcast. We know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I promise you, if some shit is like super online and available, we have like chatted about it in our group chat. Like, we know. Don't mansplain us. Like, we get it. We
College kids go home for Thanksgiving.
Like, it's, please, just, we know. We got it. Thank you. Like, thank you. But we got it.
Yes. We are aware that actually that 3 of the actors are in college. Well, actually, I think Avery is also in college, but yes, we know, and we can know that and also want to see them more. I want to give the show feedback about the way that they're pacing the storyline.
Yep. We can do all of those things
without being mansplained.
What a perfect place to end. Don't mansplain us.
Don't mansplain us or anyone. Thank you. Not needed.
Or they splain or any splain, to be honest. I don't like to be told. But any like lasting impressions, things that we want to get out before we go? I obviously am about to immediately go be messy and look at Ingo's Instagram to see if he posted anything else.
I'm ready for Sprina this week.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to see
Sprina
my kids.
Season.
Go Cassidines.
All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.